Hey, welcome back. Week 9 is upon us. And that's Walter from walterfootball.com. I'm Eytan from Odd Shopper. And make sure that you're following along because we're going to build our card, our 5-play ticket for this week's contest. Like we did last week, Walt, we went 3-2. Not bad. Couple of good ones, couple of stinkers. My Atlanta was definitely on there, and I apologize for that. Your Chicago was definitely on there, so we break even. How are you, my friend?
Good. Hope you're doing well. 3-2 is not the greatest thing in the world, but it's a winning week, so you're gonna take that every single time. And I think in the Super Contest, if you go 3-1-1 every single week, you would win the Super Contest like every year. So pretty close. 3-2 is pretty close. So let's keep it going.
Not bad.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we remind you a couple of things. We're going to dive in, go game by game here, and sometimes we just don't have any feel for it, so we move on. There's no reason to belabor this thing. You out there, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. We truly appreciate that. We also have throughout the day here, we're going to go to DK for the visual, but we've got links upon links. So if you want to sign up, you haven't taken advantage of any of these opportunities, Walt and I, we have these links here for you below. All right, so this is walterfootball.com, and you can go a little bit deeper. I just, every time I see Charlie Campbell's name up there, I'm thinking, all right, this is it. Like, let me get ready for the draft. And I know it's week 9, but that's just one of a couple things you dominate on walterfootball.com, man.
Yeah, you have to build your bankroll for the draft because like 2 years ago we hit every prop. Last year we hit every single prop except for one. It was kind of crazy how he gets inside information for the draft like that. I always joke that like if there was an SEC for betting, like we would be in jail like Martha Stewart for the inside information we have to the draft. But we have a ton of content on there. We have picks against the spread, fantasy rankings, stardom, situm. We graded every trade at the trade deadline. We have grades for coach firing, so we already have one.
It's amazing.
Everything's free at walterfootball.com.
It's awesome. Here, fantasy football, stardom, situm. I mean, just the survivor pool, the confidence pool. So you guys cover anything and everything that can be done. Betting, playing, any active stuff you can do in the game of football, you guys are doing it. So that's awesome. And again, reminder, just keep checking in all day. Walter Football, what's the latest? What's the latest? All right, for us, let us start in Germany. I think, Walter, honestly, the obvious play here would be if this were in Kansas City, it's a no-brainer. The line's probably not 2 either, to be fair, in Kansas City, but it's a no-brainer. I'm tempted to just stay away from this game because of the overseas factor, although I would lean Kansas City in a bounce-back situation.
That's what I was thinking at first. And then I saw the travel schedule. Miami went over on Monday and then Kansas City went over on Thursday. And generally it's been the team that has gone earlier has benefited well. And like with the Chiefs, you have like some weird stuff like Marquez Valdez-Scantling saying this sucks to fly to Germany because he can't find anyone to watch his dogs. Like it's got me thinking like what does he do on away games? Like I don't understand like why this is different. So like I don't know. I feel like bad vibes with the Chiefs here. I initially was on Kansas City, but then I saw the travel stuff. So now I'm gonna switch to Miami, but I'm not gonna bet this game.
Right. So I think from the contest standpoint, we're going to get 2. It's not worth it here, right?
Yeah.
Move
Let's
on.
move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, maybe that's the reason why Andy Reid delayed travel is to limit the amount of time that Valdez-Scantling's dogs would be away from him. You never know, man. He's a player coach.
That's the priority. Like he had all the tickets booked, and then he was like, wait, Marquez's dogs. We have to wait a few days. So
I love it, man. I love it. All right, so we move on there. No issues, no worries. Again, we only play sides here, and we roll with what we get from the book, from the contest. So, my friend, Baltimore, Seattle. Now, Seattle comes off a big one. On the surface, who cares that Seattle has to cross country? They do this. They do it well. There's certainly been a revival here with Geno Smith. People are talking about Legion of Boom 2.0. Meanwhile, Baltimore doesn't make any moves at the deadline. They're like, all right, we're good. We're set with Lamar. Really efficient offense and defense. Yet this is I understand that it's not 7 key. It's still 6 key. This is a pretty big number for a team in Seattle that comes in off a big win.
Yeah, they opened it at like 5.5 and went to 6. So kind of like brazen on the sportsbooks part. Like they don't seem to be afraid of that number. And like this number like says to me that they want Seattle money because Seattle has a good record. They're half a game behind Baltimore in the overall standings. Like a 5-2 team getting 6 points may look appealing to the public, and like it just shows me that they don't want money on Baltimore. So I'm inclined to take Baltimore here. It's just a bad number though, because 6 is the third most likely result of any NFL game. So this is almost
and the
a stay
math
away.
on it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, this is
47%.
Yeah, I think that like this is almost a stay away for me. I may bet Baltimore for a little bit, but it's not gonna be on my card for the contest.
Yeah, I don't know anything else to do. You're not going to gain anything. Like, I'm not going to run an 8-point teaser to get Seattle to 14. I think you're right. I think you either take Baltimore or pass. Not on the card for me either. We can move on. Man, this next game. I'm not going to say a word. I tell you, Chicago is at New Orleans. The Saints are laying 8.5 points. What do you say to that? Because I have no idea, which doesn't mean it's a pass. I haven't figured this game out.
It's a lot of points for a team that struggles in the red zone, kicks a lot of field goals. So that like my initial inclination was to take Chicago, but I don't like Chicago. Like last week, they were missing so many players, and on the injury report, they were missing a ton of people in practice, a lot of DNPs. What kind of threw me off with the Bears last week was Eddie Jackson was supposed to play, and he was active, and then he didn't play at all. And I like it's kind of like why? And like they were missing both safeties against the Chargers passing attack. That really hurt them. And so they're going to be missing a bunch of players here. So I think I'm leaning toward the Saints, but man, I again, like you can't. The Saints offense just really struggles in the red zone with this field goal. So I could see like the Saints winning by 7 and the Bears covering, but like with all this injury, Chicago could just get blown out.
That's the thing, right? And when you have a dog, and we're going to talk about it next coming up, when you have a dog that's really north of 7.5, it's so volatile. You could have Chicago in 100 simulations of this game have cover. Maybe 1 or 2 or whatever went outright. And then so many of these end with New Orleans just blowing out a much worse football team. No reason to force it by any means. All right. Now, this is where I get I'm a little back and forth in my own brain, Walt. So the Cardinals at 10, and it's not so much that 10 is the appealing number as is Arizona. I do understand, though, that Kyler Murray is not going to play. Now you're down to your third string quarterback. I get that. But as we've seen, and you called it with Will Levis a couple of weeks ago, not to say that what Arizona is doing is starting Will Levis, but there is an unknown factor even in a backup. The problem is that Cleveland with Jim Schwartz, significantly better as we see at home with his splits. This defense is one of the best in the NFL, yet their offense now has to win and cover a game by 10 points. You see where I'm kind of a little twisted right now?
Yeah, it's a rough number. Although in the super contest it's 8 or I think 8.5. Let me see. It's 8. So we're getting a little bit of value there. 8 and 10 aren't like major key numbers or anything, but they're kind of sort of like the results. So
it's a little easier though.
Yeah, you could talk me into a Cleveland -8 if Kyler Murray's out. I saw a news report today. It's like 10 minutes ago saying like Murray may actually play. So it was Jonathan Gannon still hasn't decided on a starter for week 9, according to Omar Ruiz. Yeah, so like if Murray starts, this line's going to plummet, and then we're not going to get the value. So we have to submit our card for the super contest by 6:00 on Saturday. So we may not even get that information by then. So with unknown data, it's just tough to justify either side here. But if we do get confirmation that Murray's out, I think Cleveland at -8 on the contest is pretty appealing, especially with Deshaun Watson coming back. But like in real life at 10, it's just a little tougher. So this is another stay away. I do like there's always all these stayaways. I do like a lot of games this week. We just haven't got to them yet.
Right. No, I get it. Look, and it's a contest. We only have 5 choices here. So we're not going to just, I lean a certain way. Let me jam them in the card. I'm going to put Cleveland -8 as we did last week, as we will do continuing moving forward as just a marker, right? We'll go back and look at everything that we see, but marker. All right. Now this next one here, I actually am on, and I'm curious to see where you go with this. We saw this in division last year, and we've seen him as from a betting and fantasy standpoint, but Tyler Heineke is significantly better of a passer than Desmond Ridder. I don't know what this Atlanta Falcons offense can look like with Heineke because we barely saw it last week. But even still, with that extra week, I'm inclined to lay the 4 here. You have to let me know the contest line, but I'm inclined to lean towards Atlanta here, way more than Minnesota dealing with their quarterback issue.
Yeah, so it's 5 in the contest. I love Minnesota. I think they win outright. I'm going to bet them at -2.5 on the alt line. I'm not a big Heineke guy. I think he's okay, but asking
He's
him
better
to
than Ridder.
Sure, yeah, but so is everyone else. Like Heineke covering a line higher than 3 against a good team like this Minnesota team is good. And I kind of feel bad now that I convinced you to bet Minnesota to win the Super Bowl back in February at 50-1. And like they're 4-4 right now, but I think if Cousins were healthy, like I think they'd have a legit chance to make a deep run because their defense is ranked 7th now under Brian Flores. Like they've improved a lot. Justin Jefferson is going to be back in a few weeks. They're going to have Addison with experience now. The offensive line is awesome. This Viking team is better than the version that we had last year, despite like that team going 13-4. So like you have a backup quarterback no one has seen on a good team, playing like against Jaron Hall, playing against an average to below average defense with Grady Jarrett out now for Atlanta. I like backing unknown quarterbacks unless they're playing an elite defense, which Atlanta's not. I watched Jaron Hall tape from the preseason. He's looked okay. Like he can move around. He's pretty accurate. He doesn't have a good arm though. Like that'll get him in trouble against elite defenses. But this Atlanta team is not that good. And if you think about it, like Atlanta had trouble beating Green Bay at home. They lost to Washington at home. They lost to Tennessee, and we just saw Tennessee lose to Pittsburgh. Like, there's no reason for this Atlanta team to be favored by 3 against a competent team. Like if this were like Arizona, sure, like I'd lay the points, but Minnesota is the better team. If you just take out a couple positions, like I think like running back, like mostly, I think like if you go position by position, I think Minnesota and cornerback, I think Minnesota is probably better than anything Atlanta has. And then like you could argue quarterback, but we don't know what Jaron Hall is, but we know what Heineke is, and he can make some mistakes. Yeah. So yeah, I like Minnesota. I think they're going to win outright.
So the only thing it's not even pushback, but the only thing that I'm curious to see here, and again, this is going to test Brian Flores, but it's an unknown, right? So Heineke is not the unknown factor, but this offense is unknown because to your point, those games were, Tennessee had Heineke. I get that. But Desmond Ridder, and I keep going back to Desmond Ridder, and you're right. Like anybody and everybody is better than Desmond Ridder, but that's what we had. Like that's our sample size. So apparently for you, they're the unknown for Hall, and I'm asking. I know it sounds like I'm leading, but the unknown for Hall is more of an advantage than the unknown of the Atlanta because they have playmakers on that offense. They just missed a guy to kind of get people the football.
Yeah, and also speaking of playmakers, Atlanta just declared Drake London out for this game too, so they're not going to have any deep threats either for Heineke. So I guess this really good Minnesota team that's ranked 7th in defense, like a limited offense, like they're going to have trouble scoring. Like they already have trouble scoring, like in the red zone. They kick so many field goals. Now maybe that gets better with Heineke, but I think that London being out kind of negates that. I think this is going to be a low scoring game, and I think Minnesota's going to take it.
All right, I'll put Minnesota with the points on the card for now.
Okay.
Next game here in New England, a reminder, walterfootball.com. You can see all the juicy stuff. You go back, look at this. You go back to 2010, 2009. You guys are archiving. I saw that earlier. You guys are archiving everything, man. That's amazing.
We've been around since 99. Unfortunately, we used to have
hiring?
Yeah, we used to have an old server, which all the stuff got deleted in 04.
Oh.
It was on my high school server, and they just deleted it because they're like, we can't have gambling content on here. I'm like, well, could you like give me 24 hours notice to download all the stuff? Yeah, you can see jerks of the week there. I make fun of people around my neighborhood in the gym, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah,
I love it, man. Absolutely love it. Book coming soon. We think, right?
Book number 3. I've written 2 already. So yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So I did go over this thing, jumped out right away. And granted, a lot of what I do early from Sunday ahead of time for totals is try to work around 41 and 51. So this opened up at 38.5. I jumped on that over. It has since moved up to that key at 41. What does that mean? Just that people, I think, are expecting a little more offense than both of these two teams would give you in the brain, despite, of course, Washington throwing for 4 touchdowns, nearly 400 yards with Sam Howell. I don't think anybody anticipates that. The contest number is going to be key here because at 2.5, it seems like it's Patriots, or you really need a great reason. And we already saw this, did we not, Walt? Every time Washington plays Philadelphia, the next game seems like a dud.
Yeah, I'll say the difference there is that they were big favorites in the next game against Chicago the first time they played the Eagles, and then here they're underdogs. So there might be different, but then again, they traded away 2 of their best players, so they could be flat. Yeah, yep. That's the downside for Washington. But for the Patriots, they have to travel to Germany after this game, so that they could be flat as well. So like both sides look unappealing at 2.5, I think. I really don't want to back the Patriots as favorites, but in the contest, Washington's 3.5. So that's at least worth considering. I know that one of our entries will probably have Washington because our friend Quacky Takes loves Washington at 3.5. 2.5, not so much because 3 is the major key number. But yeah, this is a pass for me. I hate both of these teams in the situation. They're both bottom 5 teams in the NFL. So I just don't really want to bet either of them.
I mean, look, 3.5. I'm on board with 3.5. Although New England is like, this is the type of game that New England wins, like 38-3, and everybody's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, it is. It is worth noting that is Sam Howell's a young quarterback playing against Bill Belichick, and those guys have done very poorly.
Yep.
But then again,
especially
the Patriots.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Then again, the Patriots may not have the defensive talent this year because like their defense is so bad and so banged up. So it's a tough game to handicap, I think.
At 2.5, I think there's a little more appeal to New England because I go on that where guys, and it's not just like Tim Tebow in the playoffs. I mean, just in general, it's just the sense of brand new quarterbacks, younger quarterbacks, and also anybody coming off like a big game, big moment, big kind of stretch where it's like, okay, now you have to go up and take on Belichick. And clearly he's going to have a game plan, but to your point, it's about execution. So do you want to put Washington at 3.5 here, or do you want to just keep going?
We can pencil it in if you want, and then we could remove it if we like some other stuff.
All right. I like Tampa in this game. And just making sure, was it 4? No, sorry, that was
it's 2.5 in the contest.
2.5 for us, right? So that's the difference. 3 now. It's been bet up. I love it. That's fine. Houston laying 3 points, I think, is a concern no matter where they play the football game. But I don't know if you look at this a different way or simply look at this wanting to play that number.
Yeah, I like Houston a lot at 2.5. I think Tampa is a really bad team. People got thrown off by some of their wins earlier in the season. Like week 1, they beat the Vikings, but they were outgained by a big margin. They won because Kirk Cousins imploded with some very sloppy turnovers. Week 2 against Chicago, that was the game that Justin Fields ran twice after the first drive. And yet they were only up 3 with 2 minutes left. And then the third game they won was against the Saints when Derek Carr returned early from that shoulder and he couldn't throw the ball downfield. Like otherwise, like Tampa has been great to bet against. I know they covered with that stupid backdoor cover against Buffalo last week, but otherwise, like they've gotten blown out. They got blown out against Detroit at home. And then the following week, they lost by 3 against Atlanta, but Atlanta fumbled twice at the 1-yard line in that game. Like that easily could have been a 2-touchdown game. I just think the Tampa team is really bad. And Houston, they lost last week to Carolina, but they had more yards and yards per play than the Panthers. I think that was kind of a misleading loss. It's a field goal at the end. Like Houston could have won that game. And I think Houston overall as a team is just like, I think they're mediocre. And Tampa is a bottom 5 team. So I think that Houston at -2.5 looks great. 3, not so much. But in the contest, that Houston's going to be my personal card.
Okay. I have to think about this one before we talk tonight because there's so much on the line here for Tampa Bay. Whereas I don't, while I agree with you that Houston won inside the box, the box score for those out there, like what you were alluding to, more yardage and all, it's what happens after that loss. I wouldn't be surprised if they've struggled coming back off something like that, especially as a favorite. The other thing, though, is just this division is pretty much wide open in the South right now for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So I wonder how much more that does where you do have some life. They come off the bye, right? So you've been right more often than me, man. So I'm inclined to lean, but I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I'm
if
going
you
to
don't
hold
love
off
it,
on that.
yeah, if you don't love it, we don't have to
Let's
put it on the
hold
card.
off. We can always come back if we're short. Rams get humiliated. Packers, well, I mean, Jordan Love. Now there are all the reports that come out and stuff. I know that's your squad. You got the helmet behind you, my friend. But
Oh, they're
I
not my
mean,
squad. It just it was a gift as a Aaron
look at
Rodgers
that.
signed autograph, the helmet.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I mean, absolutely,
but
and ball.
if you remove my name from Walter Football, the helmet below it is Chicago. So I'm definitely not a Packer fan.
Right, absolutely right. Okay, I get that. So you're okay. I mean, look, it's 3 right on the contest.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
fine with taking 3 here. I know that Matthew Stafford injury is a concern, clearly is a concern here, but Jordan Love is awful right now. And I just don't know how you can trust this team to not only win a football game, but cover a key number.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're on the same page here. Like, I actually want Stafford out because we've seen Stafford play before with a thumb injury. There's that 1 year where the Lions made the playoffs. They actually looked pretty good until Stafford injured his thumb, and then they lost every game after that. I want Brett Rippon to play. I know he sucks, but Green Bay's defense is terrible. They're ranked 30th. Like, he should be able to do fine against them. They should be able to run the ball very well against Green Bay. They're so bad against the run. And then you have Jordan Love, who's a disaster. Like, not only is he bad, his receivers are terrible too. Like, they're dropping everything. Yeah, definitely. I definitely like the Rams. I think they're the better team by far.
Now, I bet this outright earlier, hoping Carolina could beat Houston, gain a little momentum, knowing, I mean, how could he not, that Frank Reich has this game circled on whatever personal calendar he has whenever the schedule comes out. So, you know where I'm going here. And look, I think the biggest thing that actually helped Carolina was Frank Reich taking a step back, handing over play calling reins, but doing it in a bye week to really prepare this team and not rush or force that. I like Carolina a lot in this game to win outright. I know the points are a little different. It's a division game. Things are wonky and wacky here. Indianapolis probably not as bad as this spread would indicate, but there is something about, as you know, man, a player, a coach, anybody of importance in that locker room with a big game, because other guys want the same for them. And I think that's reciprocated. So I wouldn't put it past Carolina to win this game outright.
Yeah, actually read your article on oddshopper.com about the Panthers being the upset. I agree. I'm on the Panthers side, and I'm fine to put them on the card. Just want to just give you my concern here, and if you're okay with it, I'm definitely gonna side with you with the Panthers. So with the Colts, they've had some ugly games recently, and Gardner Minshew's been terrible with all those turnovers. But if you look at all the games he's played recently, they've all been against great defenses, all top 10 defenses. Like last week, he had the Saints. The Saints are top 10 defense. The week before, the Browns. We know how good defensively they are. Against the Jaguars have a really good defense. Like, no one's talking about them, but they're top 10 as well. So those are the 3 games that Minshew has played since he's taken over as the starter when Richardson went down. And now he gets the Panthers, who, like, they don't have a bad defense by any means, but their run defense is awful. They're good against the pass, but the Colts should be able to run the ball with Taylor. And the last time Minshew played against a team that was terrible against the run was Houston week 2, and the Colts blew out Houston. And I feel like this is kind of a similar matchup. But then again, like, I still don't like the Colts very much. Like, Minshew could still struggle, against the pass rush too. So like I said, I like Carolina as well. I just have those concerns, and like that's why Carolina is not going to be in my card. But I am picking them on the site though.
Yeah, I mean, 2.5 on the contest is going to be a difficult sell, like laying 3.5. I understand that. I'm going to put them here, although from a card standpoint, although I bet this, from a card standpoint, I'm willing to be flexible, because I do think that there are plenty of scenarios here in which Gardner Minshew and the Colts don't turn over the football, and that puts Carolina in a tough spot. Now, Carolina doesn't turn their opponents over a lot, But if you keep giving them chances, at some point they will. So I'll put them on here, but we can be flexible. We can be flexible. Now, I've been pounding this stat for a week and a half right now. Dak Prescott is now 5-12, Walter. 5-11-1 against the spread with a TD to interception ratio of 21-16 to 16. Road games in between a pair of home games. He's got Carolina coming up. He's got Philadelphia this week, and he's already lost to Arizona in that horrific game in week 3. So there are so many other variables, things, and all these other things to talk about. But if Dak Prescott is going full Dak road between 2 home games, Prescott, I have no problem whatsoever laying the 3 for Philly at home.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd have to look at like what those games were, because like off the top of my head, that Arizona game, like Dallas is missing so many players, like 3 offensive linemen and a bunch of defensive players. So like, and I think they mailed that game in too, and it was Arizona Super Bowl. In this game, this number is like the sports books, like, you know, they give out those promos that are like, hey, bet like plus 80 points, you know, you can like basically like that. This is almost like that, it seems like, because everyone I talk to, they're like, how are the Eagles only -3? They have the best record in the NFL. And it's just screams like the sports books be like, hey, come bet the Eagles with us, it's free money. I think Dallas looks appealing from that perspective. And then you look at the metrics. The Eagles are 23rd in defense. They're by far the weakest unit on the field between offenses, defenses, is Philadelphia's defense in this game. And I think like Dallas should have a great offensive performance in this game. Like we just saw Prescott and Lamb just light up the Rams, and I think they could do the same thing against the Eagles. Now, like the Eagles are, their offense is awesome too. So I think that they're going to be competitive and they'll have a chance to cover the spread. But I think just Dallas looks appealing to me. It's not like one of my favorite plays of the week, but it actually is in consideration for the card. There are 7 games I'm considering for my personal card, and like this, Dallas is one of them.
So the one thing that I don't know if Dallas is capable of is keeping that Eagles offense off the field, similar to how Philly has done this. And it's not because I don't think that they're talented enough, Walt, as much as I don't know if their offense is designed for that, right? Like you do have Pollard, but you've got some guys you can throw the football to. CeeDee Lamb, I shouldn't even say guys. I mean, it's basically just pounding and peppering CeeDee Lamb. So even with A.J. Brown and even with the ability to go deep downfield, how many times have we seen these 8-9 minute drives and all? And I wonder if Philly comes into this not trying to win off style points, typical Nick Sirianni flash crap, and instead it treats this like a road game. Treats this like we do whatever we need to do. We don't turn the football over. We maintain possession. Granted, if they're turning the ball over on the 5-yard line, this whole point is moot. But if they're able to do that, that's what also makes this appealing. So I don't want to hang it all on Dak, but I think the Eagles have that extra little control that maybe Dallas won't have, or maybe will be hesitant to go to, thinking they need to keep scoring points to keep up with this Eagles offense.
Yeah, I think both defenses are going to have trouble in this game. But the Eagles offense is so explosive, and you're right. Like they have those long drives, like the one drive they had against Miami where they converted 2 of those brotherly shove plays. So like that is the concern, and like that is why I'm not so like gung ho on Dallas here. But I do like them though, and also I think that this is kind of like a statement game for Dallas. Like I feel like the Eagles had their statement game a couple weeks ago against Miami on Sunday Night Football. Whereas like this is like Dallas is coming in, like they're behind in the standings. They had an ugly game a few weeks ago against the Niners. Like this is their chance to be like, okay, we belong with the top teams in the NFL. Whereas like the Eagles are 7-1. I don't feel like they have anything to prove in this game. And so yeah, we get 4 key numbers with Dallas, and That's surprising. This number is so short. Like people, like I've had so many people who like some who don't even bet that much. They're like, why are the Eagles only -3? Yeah.
Real quick, because you made 2 points that I think are really smart, and we shouldn't just gloss over them, especially because at least one of these next games, I don't think we're going to have much to do about. But the Eagles, you just talked about that with Dallas. It's a statement game for Dallas. It 100% is a statement game for Dallas, and I totally agree with you. But I was a little surprised that you don't think it's as much of a statement game for Philadelphia. first off, we're here, so we know just how crazy and how much pressure the Eagles get even after they win. They're 7-1. Nobody's happy. I get that. But that's the Philadelphia stuff. Put that aside. I think this line actually is sharper than not because of your point, which is it's not about public perception. It's not about win-loss record. It's about inside the stats. It's about what this team has done. And it's not to say that they faked their way to 7-1, but it reminds me a lot, right, of Minnesota last year, where they were just getting by. They were skating by, and everybody was like, okay, show me, show me. So I feel like maybe the Eagles do have a little bit more of a show me game than you think. But I don't know ultimately if that pushes me back either and says, all right, slam the Eagles on the card. Now, I bet them, but that's fine. I've been wrong before.
That's an interesting point that I hadn't considered. The Eagles, I feel like at 7-1, they're top of the hill, and I thought from a national perspective that everyone is thinks that they're going to win the Super Bowl now. They're the best team. They're number one in everyone's power rankings, but there is, maybe locally there is some talk that they're not as good as that record indicates. And I think that Minnesota comparison is pretty good last year, where Minnesota just kept on winning, but it was pretty apparent that those wins were fraudulent. And the Eagles almost lost to Washington twice. It's once, sure. Last year they lost to Washington. The other time they killed them. This year they almost lost them twice. So I just, this defense really bothers me. Ranking 23rd. Now maybe Kevin Byard improves. So he was not good last week, but another week in the system, maybe he gets better. There's a chance that they can improve. But yeah.
All right. You got me. I bet I put this out as a look ahead bet in week 8 because of the Dak Prescott stat, but on the card, I'm willing to at least, don't ever say that I am not one to compromise. All right. We'll put them on the card for now because you got me at 3 on the card. I'm willing to take a shot there. If Daniel Jones plays, I mean, my God, I'd rather have, what's his name? Danny DeVito at the quarterback spot right now, because here's why. The other kid for the Raiders can throw the football. Jimmy Garoppolo is a trash can. So I would be inclined to just take the Raiders in this case to cover the game. But I don't know. I really don't want to force this game. I don't feel like we have to force this game unless you have some great angle.
Well, I'll try to convince you on the Giants. So there's a couple things here. First, I think this is a horrible schedule spot for the Raiders. 2 weeks ago, they played at Chicago. So it was a Central Time Zone game on the road. Last week on Monday Night Football, they played Eastern Time Zone at Detroit. So short work week. They have to travel back to Las Vegas. It's really tough schedule spot for the Raiders, I think. Also, the Giants defense has gotten so much better. It's not just one game. Like we saw last week, they held the Jets in check for a while. It's not very impressive to do that. But the week before, Washington scored 7 points. It really their only touchdown came off that muff punt. So Washington didn't even have a real drive. And this is a team that just scored a ton of points against the Eagles. And then the week before that, they held the Bills to 14 points. This Giants team is legit defensively. They're actually ranked 4th in the metrics. So they have to go against Aiden O'Connell, who's I think he's pretty impressive in the preseason. But then again, so is Nathan Peterman. And what does that prove? So I want to see Aiden O'Connell against this pass rush from the Giants with Kayvon Thibodeau, who looks amazing recently. I think he's going to struggle, especially on a short work week. And then the Raiders fired their coach, which usually is, I think is a good thing for teams. But on a short week, it's going to be tough here for this team. I feel like
Come on, man. Did you not see Devontae Adams dancing and boxing in the locker room? That place couldn't be happier.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I imagine he's imagine he's pretty happy that Josh McDaniels is gone. But I don't know. Against this defense, I don't think the Raiders are going to do much. We just saw on Monday Night Football, we just saw the Lions just ram the ball down the Raiders' throat, and I feel like the Giants are going to do the same thing with Saquon Barkley. Ever since that Monday Night Football game, I feel like that's been ingrained in everyone's memory, that Seattle game where they just got trashed. Ever since then, they've only failed to cover once, and that was against the Dolphins. Ever since then, I think they're 2-1-1 against the spread. They've been a lot better since that game, and I think people remember that too vividly. And I think if you just look at these teams of how they played recently, you have to wonder, like, why are the Raiders favored? Like, I think the Giants should be like -2.5 at the very least.
I think that must have come with the quarterback spot, because right now it looks like Daniel Jones is a go. So I thought that
Yeah.
was still up in the air.
Yeah, well, two things with that. Like, first, Daniel Jones was practiced fully on Wednesday and Thursday, so we didn't get the full report yet on Friday. So I'd be shocked if he doesn't play.
Yeah,
And then the other thing is that Andrew Thomas may come back. Like, he's been limited all week in
right.
practice, which is like an upgrade over what it's been in previous weeks. So like having him back too should be a good boost for the offense. And like I said, I think Barkley is just going to have a great game here, and I think the Giants should be able to beat the Raiders like pretty easily.
He's 0-6 against the spread in his last 6, but he's also 9-0 versus losing teams against the spread.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, you mean?
Yeah, and
Okay.
he's always been a sneaky road cover, right? I'm
Yeah.
looking at this 17-8. So the Danny DeVito jokes aside, Tommy DeVito jokes aside, I thought it was a little bit more up in the air despite Daniel Jones practicing. It looks like that's confirmed. So that's fine with me. I'm fine with taking the Giants. I'm going to bet the Giants now with Daniel Jones, especially as a road dog in that spot. All right, we got 2 games to look. Sorry.
No, I was about to say, like, it actually makes sense that he has such a great record against losing teams, because I always remember him beating Washington and just like getting blown out by the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's basically what he's done. And we know the Raiders are bad.
All right, so we got Cincinnati last week. That was one of the 3 that we hit. They're laying 2 at home. Buffalo is this is another one that I don't really understand much, because Buffalo has played down to opponents. Meanwhile, Cincinnati, Joe Burrow is healthy. They have one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. Granted, that total is just below 51, so I do anticipate a higher scoring game, or people may anticipate a higher scoring game. Maybe that favors Buffalo, but I'm probably missing something here because of the whole DeMar Hamlin. I don't know what it is that I'm missing, but if you just look at where these 2 teams are, laying less than 3 seems to make sense to me for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I don't understand this line either, because it went to 3. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. And it was a high move. It was a big move from the advanced spread, which was Buffalo -1.5. So there's like a congrats if you got the Bengals +1.5. So like pretty good. So like a 4.5 point line movement is something I usually want to fade, but it made sense because like you said, Joe Burrow is finally healthy, and not just him, like T. Higgins is healthy too. Joe Mixon looks spry for the first time last week. This Bengal team seems to be coming together, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them make a run. Last week on my show, I recommended Joe Burrow to win MVP at 40-1, because like I thought that like if it's wide open right now, I think you can make the case for like 5 players to win MVP. There's no runaway candidate. Like if the Bengals run the table and they finish like 13-4 or something like that, I think Burrow's going to definitely be in consideration for MVP. So I thought 40-1 looked pretty good, and it's already down to like 17-1.
Wow.
So I like Cincinnati here. They're the better team. Buffalo's defense has been a train wreck since losing Matt Milano, Trey Davis White, and Daquan Jones. And Ed Oliver is kind of banged up too. So I like I said, like you said, I think that this line is weird. I don't get why it's not 3 or higher. I think Cincinnati should be at least 3. My personal spread for this game is 4.5. So yeah, I think
sense.
we're getting good value with Cincinnati, I think.
And we're below technically that biggest number of all at 3, if
Right.
according to your spread there. Last game, and then we have to do some work here and take some teams off the board. You tell me why this is a bad play. You tell me why the Jets don't cover 3.5 at home with that defense and what should be a regression to the mean for the Chargers. And I'm listening, by the way.
I can't tell you. I like the Jets too. So we're on board here. I don't know why this line keeps moving up. Like that's the only concern here. But like I said this last week in that Seattle Cleveland game where a line moves through 3. You shouldn't be too concerned about the 3, because this is the books telling you, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either Chargers blow out the Jets or the Jets are going to win. Like they don't think this line is going to land on Chargers by 3 because they're going to get middled. So I'm inclined to think that the Jets win this game. Like the Chargers are not a very good team. They don't run the ball very well. Like that's like the one slight weakness the Jets have is like defending the run. And so like the Chargers can't really exploit that. Whereas like the Chargers are so reliant on the pass, and the Jets have embarrassed Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts this year. And defensively, the Chargers are so bad against the pass. So I feel like Garrett Wilson's just gonna have a good game. I think the Jets are gonna win.
All right. All right. So let's work in reverse here, okay? Because last couple of games looks like we've all agreed on here. 1, 2, 3. Giants, Bengals, Jets. Good on those, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can the first game I'm thinking about removing is Dallas +3 because you seem to like the Eagles a little bit, and like Dallas I like, but I don't love, so we can get rid of that.
Okay.
One.
I think we both like the Rams though, right?
Yeah, as long as Stafford's out. Maybe we'll have to adjust if Stafford plays. Like I said, I don't want him playing with that injured thumb. So we could keep the Rams. I think we can remove Cleveland just because like there's a chance Kyler Murray plays, and then we're going to get a terrible number.
So we need to drop 2. And you know, the more I'm looking at this, I didn't bet it in real life, thankfully, it's to go against it. But the more I do like Minnesota in this spot, you've convinced me. Atlanta's defense really is I didn't realize how bad it was from a statistical standpoint. It just dropped off because it wasn't like that earlier in the year. I'm inclined to keep Minnesota. All right, what if we took off because just going on the number here, I'm a big fan of Carolina. I bet them outright as far as to win on the money line, so I don't want to force 2.5. What would you say is this being our card? Vikings +4, Rams +3, Giants with points, Bengals laying 2, Jets +3.5.
Looks good to me. I like all those sides. I think that looks like 5-0 for us.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's hit the site one more time, walterfootball.com. You see, you'll get everything from DK picks in week 9 to Charlie Campbell's mock draft to jerks of the week and anything else you want. All there. I mean, you guys are just destroying it, Walt. So we appreciate all the work you're doing there too. We just want to highlight that.
Yeah, thanks. It's a ton of content we have every day. Updated picks throughout the week too, like multiple times. If a line moves, if there's an injury, we'll have an update. And so we have an update from Thursday for the picks, and tonight, like if you're up late, like you'll see it, or tomorrow morning, you'll see an update for the picks as well. And then I'm going to have props that I post throughout Saturday too. So yeah, check all that out at walterfootball.com.
Awesome. All right, so for Walter, I'm Eytan. 5-0, my friend. I can feel it. I can feel it.
Let's go.
We'll see you next week.
I see you.